Hi, Jim. Are you there?
Let me see. Yep. Can you hear
Hi
me?
there.
We can see you and hear you.
Good, good.
Stop. Yeah.
Not much of a background, but I felt like that's not the
Yes.
main attraction. The main
Right.
attraction.
Right. Not why we're here, right?
That's right.
Thank you again for doing this. I just want to make sure you're okay on your end. Do we want to play around with anything?
I probably just want to test because I think Kathie
That's
wanted me to see about sharing my screen to share the presentation.
that's
Sure.
fine. Go ahead. Yep.
All right. Excuse me. Is that all coming up?
It sure is.
Yep.
Great. There was
We've
just
got
one.
all of your background stuff as well, though. You like your tabs and stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately, with this thing, I may not be able to get those removed. So
Okay.
I hope that's not too much of a distraction.
Nope.
No, it's
Because I
fine.
was playing around, yeah, I was playing around with it earlier just to see if I could do it, but this was just sent to me in a PDF. So
Mm,
when Kathie gets on, I may just see if she would rather, if she has something she would rather use. So, oops. So I'll stop sharing here in just a second. There was a video I was going to try and show,
That's fine.
and I just wanted to test it. It's a 2-minute video. Can everybody hear that okay?
we can't hear audio on the video.
I think
You
there's
can't
one
hear?
thing I need to do on my end. Give me 1 second. Okay, we have everything turned on our end. So if you want to try again,
Okay.
still can't hear it.
Hmm.
We're looking into it.
Okay, no worries. I was just seeing if there was an issue on my end.
Jim, if you want to try it again.
Sure.
No. One second, I'm gonna let Kathie come on. Hi, Kathie, can you hear me?
Make sure he has, when he does the share screen, make sure he has share computer sound and optimized for full screen video. Clicked.
Kathie, are you there? Jim, on your screen, do you see down at the bottom, share screen?
Yeah, I see. I see you are sharing your screen sharing.
Okay, does it have like an up arrow on share screen?
Yeah. New share.
Actually, if you click on share screen, a box should pop up.
No, it's a different function on his side because he's sharing the screen. So he needs to close his screen share and then follow that.
Working out. There we go.
There's Kathie.
There she is.
Hi, folks.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi there. Hello.
Hi.
So we're just playing around, making sure that you are both okay. Jim can pull up the PDF. We were just testing the video and we can't get the sound. So we're just playing around with that at the moment.
Okay.
If you want to test on your end.
You want me to bring it back up?
Yeah, can you close your screen share and start it again, Jim?
Oh, my friend Dawn's on here. Hi, Dawn. I love it. Okay. Yes, his screen sharing. Yay. But then we're frozen.
You should have two check boxes, Jim, before you start the screen share to share your computer sound and optimize for full screen. Did you check both of those?
I'm not understanding. I'm sorry.
Close your screen share entirely, if you would, please.
Okay.
And then go back to the taskbar and select share screen. And it should give
Okay.
you the options and you can choose the screen you want to share. And it says there should be two check boxes, one to share computer sound and one to optimize for full screen.
Try it again. Yeah, I got the share sound.
Okay.
No.
And then the other one optimized for full screen.
I only see optimized for video clip.
Yep, perfect. And then click share screen. Let's see if that does it.
Okay.
There it is. Woo!
Awesome.
You know, technology. This is why we have Plan B in full effect, ready to go.
Thank
Yes.
goodness for the Google.
Technology, we can keep it moving.
Yeah, right.
Awesome. Well, anything else you guys want to test? If not, we'll get started about 6:30.
Yeah, we're ready to go. We're
Let me
excited.
just check one thing just to make sure I can pull up the other thing.
Yep, no problem.
Just real quick.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, we'll have folks checking in for the next 10 minutes or so.
We already have 3 of them on.
You gonna
Hi,
sing for us,
everybody.
Kath?
What do you
Well,
want me to sing? A little ditty?
Sing whatever you like, girl. No, don't sing Diddy. He's bad news.
Yes, we know. We know.
And despite the tabs, I was trying to mess around to get rid of those. So I hope they're not too much of a
Oh, if
distraction.
you go into, I think it's the 3 dots to the right. Is it the 3 dots to the right? It is, I want to say it was the 3 dots, where it'll say full screen, and then it'll let you do that. If you kind of toggle around, to the right page, try that one. Nope. Okay. Go over, toggle to the right where it sees 3 little
Okay.
dots. See what it says there. Full screen. Just hit,
There we go.
and that should, well, that's better. Well, we do need the tabs for that one video, so that's okay.
Yeah.
It should go back up though. I wonder why it's not.
And do you guys see the video screen again?
I do.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully that'll work. I'll just make sure that
Yeah.
the sound is everything is checked, and if not, I'll play around with it. And Kathie, just keep talking. If I have a mishap, I'll just stop sharing and kind of mess with something with the video. So, all right, I'm going to stop sharing for now.
Okay. Or you can keep it up there. Just put it on Human Trafficking 101 or there. Yep, that's good. That way we're ready to go.
Cool beans.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out. I thought it was but I think you would miss your tabs. Jim, if you do I'm looking. We do what if you do where it goes under up at the very top, past our tabs, where it says view options? What if you do 100% original size? Will that take away our tabs? Or is that just on my screen? It's up there where it says you are viewing James Knight's screen. Maybe it's just changing on mine. Okay. I'm trying to think where I was when I was able to, none of those. If you go to, try those 3 little dots again. Let me see. There you go. You did it.
All right.
Good job, Jim.
Now you don't have to see all my weird tabs or my.
Well, that's okay. You got stuff ready to go. We're good to go. I'm excited to see who's all on here. How many friends we have.
Except full screen, so I'll just.
Yeah, that's perfect. And we'll just start there. Perfect. Human Trafficking 101. Awesome.
Is that cool? Yep.
Does that look better?
Yes, that looks good.
Hi, Jen.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm excited.
Yes.
Whenever we get this opportunity, it's always exciting. So
Sure is.
So thank you
Absolutely.
for providing it.
You got it, girl.
Appreciate it. And I love that we already have some people on. I'm excited.
Yeah. And we'll record and post it out as well. So.
Okay, great. I think it is recording right now.
Yes.
Yep.
I think we worked out all the bugs.
You got them.
Didn't take very long.
Wow.
Background music.
Thank goodness.
Right? I said, Kathy, you should say.
Ah, we need a little jazz music.
There you go, Kathie. You have the floor. Go ahead.
don't feel like singing today.
Lift us up, girl. Lift us up.
Those vocals are on rest till next week. By the way, love the pictures.
Aren't they so cute?
Did you see some of them?
I did. Ashley sent them. Oh my God, I love them.
Yeah, they turned out really cute. We're just
They
starting
really
to go through them and look at them. They were good.
really- Yep. Loved it.
Yes.
Who's Holly?
We know her.
Hello. Where's the camera?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Holly.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Good. Hi.
Alana's here.
Hi, Alana.
There's our new driver.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's right. God help us all.
why is it that all of us moms say that? We all say that with our kids. It's like, oh, stay off the roads.
It's scary.
It is. I know.
Right, well, about 5 minutes or so.
Okay. We just follow you. You tell us what we're doing. Hmm. Hmm.
Hey, Kathy and Jim. We're going to unmute everybody that's here right now just for a minute so that they can say hello if they want to.
Yay!
Yeah, and then we'll mute it all back out when we're in the presentation. But if we've got a few minutes, I thought it would be a nice opportunity.
Would love that.
That'd be great.
Anyone wants to say hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself, say hello, turn your cameras on. No problem if not.
Yeah, if you don't want to, that's fine, but we'd love you to have the opportunity to say hi and introduce yourself. We're so happy that you all came to join us tonight.
I see Gunner in the house, or is that Tank? I saw some animal on Holly's lap.
Oh.
Oh,
My kids.
are they inside or outside? It looks like they're
They're
out in the
outside.
yard. Nice.
I wanted to be outside to do my Zoom, and my husband's like, don't do it, because as soon as a bee comes your way, you're all out.
You're screaming.
I'm screaming. I'm running.
Were you guys
Back.
seeing Gunner? Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah,
Yes,
was he
yeah.
on your
Oh, yeah.
lap?
Yeah, he had to
We have
pop
Gunner in the house.
Kathy, I had a little bird in my kitchen this morning.
You did.
He was adorable. Yeah.
Aww.
I had to be really smart and figure out how to humanely get him outside without squishing his little body.
Aw.
I did it though. I did it.
I'm proud of you.
Thanks.
Got that little sugars right on out.
I was freaking out, but I did it.
Aw. I love that. Well, hi everybody. For those that maybe are shy and don't want to say hi, we're excited that you're a part of this.
Good information.
For sure.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. I'm so excited you're on here.
We're actually in Wisconsin.
What?
Yeah, Emerson or Griffin we brought him down here. He's got that internship at the Mayo Clinic.
Oh,
So
that's
we brought him
wonderful.
up here to get him settled. So we're actually sitting in our hotel right now.
Oh my God. And you're
But
joining
thank you all for
me.
putting this on.
Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
We're interstate. I love it.
Well, Dawn, tell them about your daughter, how she's been a part of things.
Oh, Leah works for Rahab Ministries. She
how
went
cool.
to YSU and got her criminal justice and worked with the one professor up there, Susan, and just got really involved in the human trafficking and that kind of stuff. And she works for the Willows division, and she has 11 to 17-year-old girls that are potentially trafficked or have been trafficked. And the courts usually get a hold of them to send them to Rahab if they think they might be if they might be apt to get into trafficking or something. So Leah's got about 9 girls on her caseload right now, and
Wow.
she
Wow.
absolutely loves what she does.
Well, we're thankful that she's a part of the solution.
Absolutely.
So we're so grateful for anybody that's in this industry, like what we're doing. That's part of the solution. So I'm so grateful for sweet Leah and Don. I'm just excited that you're on. So thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your evening.
No problem. It's nice to be here. Thank you all for putting this on.
Thanks.
All right, well, we will go ahead and get started. So we're going to go ahead and remute everyone. And I'd like to introduce myself. Welcome everyone to our first Keys to Keeping Kids Safe, one household at a time. And this is a Zoom series that we here at the MUCCI team are putting on. My name is Jen MUCCI, and I'm a realtor with Keller Williams Legacy Group. And I'm joined here with our 2 buyer's agents, Ashley Candia and Liz Sanders.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
So truly we are using this and the voices of professionals to help get out the word and give some very essential strategies and practical tips to parents, grandparents, caretakers of our kids, and really helping them understand and giving them practical knowledge to keep them safe in our homes and communities. So this is the first of many series to come. We will have one every month. And next month, we will be joined by federal agents for the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms unit. And they're going to be talking about drugs, firearms, weapons, both in our area and nationally. So stay tuned for that, and we'll give more information at the end. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to our professionals this evening and let them introduce themselves and get things started. If anyone does have a question throughout, please feel free to use chat. We will be monitoring it. We do want this to be very interactive, so please feel free. If a question comes up on a specific topic that we're on, we can interrupt Jim and Kathy and have them answer any questions that come up. So thank you all for being here. It really means a lot. Keys to keeping our kiddos safe. It takes an army to do it. So thank you.
Absolutely. If anyone is going to use the chat, be sure you have your chat set to everyone so that we're sure that we see them.
All right, you guys are up.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. First, we always want to pay honor to everyone that invites us to be a part of an event. And so we definitely thank Jen MUCCI, her entire team, because these ladies are so filled with compassion and love for people. And we like to partner ourselves and be with people that care about other people. And the fact that the MUCCI team definitely has boots to the ground. It's not just our cause that they care about, but they care about many different causes. And so we just love that servant's heart. So we just thank Jen MUCCI and her entire team for just being advocates for change, and being agents of change. So thank you for giving us this opportunity. This is really fun for us to have an opportunity, because we're used to in person and vibing with people and being interactive. But this is awesome that we can do this in the comfort of your home and just give you some great information. And as Jen said, and Liz, feel free that throughout our time together tonight, if there's things that come up and you just have questions over certain topics that we're covering, we will definitely stop and answer those questions. So as Jen said, my name is Kathie Gray. I am president and co-founder of Not for Sale One Step at a Time. I also am the executive administrative assistant to the vice president of academic affairs with Walsh University. And we have a beautiful partnership with Walsh University, which is why I'm now working there. It started out with just my organization, and then their students became a strong part of what we do at Not for Sale. So much so that we started our own Calves Coalition right on campus. So it's a campus-wide coalition for any type of sexual assault, human trafficking. We're right there, boots to the ground, able to assist students and give them the resources that they need throughout our community. So we've had this beautiful partnership that we created, and our hope and our goal is just to create that change and to see change in this area right here in our own backyard. So that's a little bit about me and the organization. And now I'll throw it over to Jim.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you again so much for having us. And please, if you do have questions throughout what we're going to be talking about tonight, yes, please do share. But again, my name is Jim Knight. I am the crime prevention specialist with Stark County Prosecutor Kyle Stone's office. I myself am not a prosecutor, but I am part of our community initiatives division. That's our outreach, where we try to be out there being a part of the community, whether that's volunteering for even organizations like even such as Habitat for Humanity, or even sharing crime prevention and safety tips. And like tonight, this is part of what we do. And through our division's my role in the division, we have a partnership as well with Kathie Gray at Not for Sale, was formerly the main education chair and new member chair for PAFS, Partners Against Trafficking of Humans, Stark. And we're going to be even working more closely soon with Kathie's group, Not for Sale. So I'm happy to be a part of this tonight. And Kathie, I'll turn it back over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jim. So we're going to go ahead and get started. What we're covering tonight is Human Trafficking 101, meaning we're going to cover all the foundations and basic information of human trafficking. We will cover sex trafficking and labor trafficking, some internet safety, and social media safety. So we're going to cover all the things. And again, feel free to interrupt at any time if there's something that comes up that you would like more clarity on, or just a question that you have that we could possibly answer for you. So we'll go ahead and get started. So the next slide is going to talk about, did you know? These are some things that maybe you might have known or you don't know, but we want to make sure that you're aware. Did you know that there are more people exploited in the world today than at any other time in human history? Did you know? Did you know that there are more than 40.3 million people trapped in bondage today? So just take a moment to pause on that number. 40.3 million people are trapped in bondage. We have a huge issue. Then if you look at the one in red, globally, human trafficking generates $150 billion a year, and that number is climbing. I want you to pause on that number. When you think of $150 billion a year, please understand that each dollar, each cent is attached to a human life. That's what we're talking about. I feel like many times when we're out presenting, we're out educating and having these conversations, I feel like sometimes people forget it's kind of like a buzzword, human trafficking, but they don't understand, like, this is a human life. We're talking about children and young adults that are being raped, abused, controlled for money, sex, and power, and sometimes obviously drugs as well. So we're talking about a human life with this number. So please understand, as we move forward, keep in mind, it's not just a buzzword. We are talking about human life. That's what we're talking about. It's estimated over 100,000 children are trafficked in and out of the United States every year. That number is 100% climbing, especially when we have open borders, which is not a political statement, it's a fact. So no matter what, we have an issue where we have children going across our borders all over. And these are children coming into our country and children going out of our country. Again, it's a human rights issue. This is why we have the issues that we have today. Next slide. Excuse me, my little allergies. So what is human trafficking? So this is the legal definition of what human trafficking is: the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, or obtaining of a person for commercial sex act or labor services through force, fraud, or coercion. That's the legal definition. But what we always want to break down and unpack for you, it is unfortunately just buying and selling human beings for sex, drugs, power, and money. Next slide. So let's unpack a little bit of what sex trafficking actually is. Commercial sex act induced by force, fraud, or coercion, or in which a person performing the act is under the age of 18. As we move on further into our presentation, you will definitely see the age range that a lot of the traffickers are focused on, but honestly could be anyone at any time. You can also find these victims in many, many different places, and we'll unpack that as we move forward. But some of the victims can be found in massage parlors, brothels, strip clubs, which we have a lot of strip clubs in Ohio, escort services, or just in private homes.
Oops.
Nope, no worries. Okay, labor trafficking. So a lot of people don't understand, in the state of Ohio, we have sex trafficking as well as labor trafficking within our state. So it's important that we're going through both of these topics. So labor trafficking is forcing a person to work in captivity for little to no pay. Then there are 3 different areas of labor trafficking. The first is bonded labor, forcing a person to work for low wages to pay back an absolute impossible debt. They'll never be able to pay this debt back. Then you have involuntary domestic servitude. This is forcing a person to work and live in the same place for little to no pay. To be very honest with you, it's like the most inhumane conditions. You wouldn't even want to put an animal in these conditions. That's what human beings, a lot of them are children and young adults that are living in these conditions. Then we do not have this in our country as of yet, but child soldiers, forcing a child to participate in armed forces. We won't show the labor trafficking video just for time's sake, because we're going to save it for a different video. But who are the victims of trafficking? We get asked this all the time. How are they finding these kids? How are these kids becoming victims of trafficking? Well, let's talk about that. So anyone at any time can be a victim of human trafficking. You can be a victim. I can be a victim at any time. Men, women, children, it's no respecter of age, race, or gender. Please understand that. There's not a certain type of person they're looking for. It is anyone, male or female, that they can profit off of. Please understand. There is a primary targeted age range, ages 8 to 18. But anyone, again, at any time can become a victim. Why do you think? So we're going to ask some questions. So we hope that you can go ahead and unmute and participate in this. But why do you think traffickers target ages 8 to 18? Why? What would be the benefit to them to target that age range? And anybody can shout out. Anyone?
I would say they're accessible, easier to get to.
They are accessible. Yep. There's some other key reasons. Somebody's saying, Christopher Lynch is saying they're vulnerable. Yes,
Yes.
100%. Anything else?
They don't have necessarily the power or the wherewithal to protect themselves or get themselves out of a situation if they get into it.
100%. So we know that typically the brain does not fully develop until they're about 25 years of age. So for them, they are easy targets to easily manipulate, easily control, both physically as well as emotionally, spiritually, mentally. They are easy to control. So that's why they target that specific age range. That doesn't mean that they're not going to target a 25-year-old or a 45-year-old, because they can, and they do.
Mhm.
But that primary targeted age range is for their benefit. And there's other benefits, as we will unpack as we move forward. They also target runaways, which we do have that problem here in Stark County. They target the vulnerable, the depressed, the easily manipulated, and also anybody that has addiction problems. Next slide. There you go. So runaways, within 48 hours, please listen to this statistic. Within 48 hours of leaving their home, 1 in 3 runaway teens will be approached by someone in the commercial sex industry. As soon as they hit those streets, there will be someone that will be roaming around that will be able to target that runaway teen. Now, one thing I want you to understand as parents is that happy teens don't run away from a home. Teens that run away from home are teens that are depressed, anxiety-filled, addicted, walking through serious trials. It is so important as parents, and I can attest to this because I'm a parent of 4 young adult children myself. But children, we have a mental health crisis right now. Children have to have a safe space to communicate what they feel and what they're going through. If we as parents can be more available to our children, we won't have this runaway problem. We won't have children that turn to social media and internet to get their needs met. It's so important that we get that across to all of you parents tonight. And I'm sure you guys are amazing parents, but just letting you know and reassuring the need for that relationship with our children. That will help prevent a lot of what is happening. And as we move forward in the presentation, we'll explain a little bit more of what these teens and young adults are going through. Next slide. So how do traffickers find their victims? Well, as you can see, there's several areas on this slide of how they find their victims. So you can read that for yourselves for sure. But on this list, and again, interactive, what do you think is the number one way that they use to find their victims? The number one.
Social media.
Yes. And why do you think that?
Oh, they can groom them. They can lure them. They can say the right things. They don't have to say who they are.
Correct. They can hide behind a screen. They can create fake accounts. But there's another key reason. Everything you said is correct. But there's also another key component to why they use social media as their number one tool. Anybody can answer. To get into their minds, yes. Mm-hmm.
But
Anything
through
else?
their whole circle, right? So
Yeah. So thank you, Liz. So with social media, especially with young adults, and I'm sure you guys all know this, they're all about the followers, right? They want to get the followers. They want to increase the number of people that are following them. And to them, that is them being popular. The more followers they have, the more popular they feel that they are. So with a trafficker, with a predator, if they're following a teen that has like 5,000 followers, or in a predator's mind, 5,000, that's 5,000 potential victims with just a click of a button. So
Kathie,
for them, yes.
Tamia added, they can pretend that they're someone they're not.
Correct. Yes, they can. So they can hide behind those screens. They can create their fake accounts, which they do all the time. They love to pretend that there's somebody that they're not. And Tamia can definitely speak into that, which, hi, Tamia, didn't know you were on here yet. She can definitely speak into that when we get to a certain section. I would love for you to do that, Tamia. But yes, they can hide behind their screens. They can do so many things that are harmful. But I want you to understand that the number of followers is key for them, because to them, that's a number of potential victims with just a click of a button. So that is why social media is their number one tool. We've asked the police here in our community, what would you want our public to understand? What do you want our community to know about what's the number one way that traffickers find their victims? And the detective literally told us, he goes, if you could just get across to the public, to our community, it's their cell phone. If you could get parents to understand, you have to monitor the cell phone. You have to. There are apps on here, which Jim will go over. There are things you can do to protect your children, to protect yourselves. But we have to be very much aware that that is the number one tool. Next slide. So what do they look for? Well, we've named some of the things. They look for children that are vulnerable. They look for children that they can befriend, especially if teens and young adults are sharing that they're lonely, they're depressed, they're anxious, they're angry, they're going through trials. They love all of that because they will take that information and act like they're their knight in shining armor. They'll act like they have all the answers. They'll just want to befriend them and try to earn their trust. They love to comfort those that feel that they're unloved. It's all this grooming game, which if you don't know that word, grooming is something that predators do to gain the trust of their victims. So it's all mind manipulation, it's control, that's what they thrive on. It's literally a power trip, that's what they thrive on. And they seek out these young adults, these young children, as that's their prey. And so it's so important that we understand what they're looking for and why. Once they gain that trust, once they gain that relationship, then they have very specific tactics that they start doing. One of those things is they ask for sexually explicit photos. The reason being is they can use those photos to blackmail and exploit that young adult, that child. So they'll always ask for that. And then they have the ability, as I said earlier, to recruit multiple victims at one time, which is why social media is such an important tool for them. Next slide. So profile of a trafficker, very simple. It can be anyone at any time. There is no specific look or profile. It can be anyone. And quite honestly, a lot of the times, the predators are people that they know. It's not always a stranger. A lot of the times it could be a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a family member. We have parents trafficking their own children for money, for drug money, for drugs. Trust me, it all happens. But usually it can be somebody that they know. But anyone at any time can become a trafficker. So we do a lot of teaching on safe people, safe boundaries, and then we also offer, which towards the end I can talk about, a self-defense class on how to protect yourselves. We can, next slide. So tactics that a trafficker uses, there are many. One of the things that they love to do, which is flattery, telling that precious victim that anything that that person needs to hear. Again, based on the information that has been shared, they will use that information to manipulate that young person. If you notice expensive gifts showing up, that's another thing they love to do. They love to just lure them in with the things that that person loves. So they'll start sending expensive gifts to the home or to the school or wherever this relationship is evolving. They'll always want to discuss adult subjects. Then they will always ask to keep those things secret. So the important thing is teaching our children first of all, what safe people are and how to have safe boundaries with their bodies and with what they share information publicly, which we'll get into that in a few moments. But also just sharing about if someone is asking them to keep secrets and to isolate them from their family, their friends, their whole sphere of influence and sphere of friends, that is not a safe person. So they always want to turn that youth against their family and their friends and to isolate them. The more that they isolate that child, the more manipulation that they will have, and they'll be able to exploit that child. They will always ask for revealing images, again, for blackmail and to exploit that child. Next slide. So why do victims stay enslaved? So please understand, there's so many myths out there about human trafficking. It's not that people are held in chains. Some are, but most are not. Most are free to come and go. They're free to go to school. They're free to go and do their activities. So why do these victims stay enslaved? We get asked this, don't we, all the time, Jim? Like, why are they staying? If they can come and go, why do they stay in that situation? Well, let's unpack that a little bit. So some victims, just quite honestly, they don't even have transportation to physically get out. Maybe they ran away, so they don't have a car. They don't have money for a bus pass or for Uber. They just have no means. Some of them are leaving. They left a place that was already unsafe, so they don't have a safe space to go back to, especially if it's a runaway teen. Some victims are so afraid for their safety, which is a lot of the times the case. They are so fearful of what is going to happen to their family, their friends, or their own selves. They're scared to death to leave. Please remember, these predators, they know what they're doing. Control and fear are two major things that they do. So of course, they're going to have that fear. These victims have that fear that they're going to be harmed or their loved ones are going to be harmed. So they rather stay, even though the situation they're in is abusive, they rather endure that than to have something happen to their loved ones. Some of them, again, are just so manipulated, they don't know any other option. If you think about domestic violence, why women and children stay in that environment, it's because they're scared. They're scared to leave. They know that if they try to leave, they could die. So these are all the things that these precious young kids and young adults, or anyone that is trafficked, whether it's labor trafficking or sex trafficking, this is what they're going through. Next slide. So social media and internet safety. So one of the things that we really hit on when we go into the schools is this. We hit on so many different things for them so that they understand what they're doing. So with social media, we always encourage our young people to keep their accounts private. And we tell them all the time, and Jim can attest to this, we tell them all the time, you wouldn't just let a lot of strangers walk into your home. You wouldn't open the door to your home and let strangers come into the home without knowing something of that person. So when you're on the internet, you are literally allowing up to 50,000 or more predators a day are online. 50,000 or more predators, so hear that number, are online a day. So when our teens or our young children don't have any privacy settings on their social media or their gaming accounts, you're welcoming 50,000 predators right into your hands, into your cell phone, into your personal space and home. So we just want everyone to understand, this is why we're passionate about, these are simple things that we can do as parents to protect our kids so they don't become prey or fall into human trafficking. The other thing we recommend for parents is that you have the passwords to all of the accounts. So one thing I've done with my children that I have no problem sharing, they're young adults now, so I'm not doing this now, my disclaimer. But I did when they were teenagers and young adults. I would do random phone checks. And what I mean by that is I would just tell the kids, I would say, hey, You know, I want to take a look at your phone. Can you sit down here with me and just kind of share with me? I want to look at your social media accounts, and I want to see who you're talking to, especially in their DMs. You always want to check the direct messages, and their TikToks and their Snapchats, and the list can go on. But I would sit down with them, I mean, maybe like 10, 15 minutes, and just kind of look through the phone. It wasn't for control. It was a relationship that I built with my kids, that they know that they can trust mom, and they know that mom has their back. And so what I always teach on is rules without a relationship equal that rebellion. So if the kids don't feel safe to talk to mom and know that mom's going to have their back, or dad, or whoever their caregiver may be, that's when the hiding comes and the secrecy and sometimes the shame comes. But if you have that open relationship, that does help. It doesn't mean that things still can't occur. I understand. But I'm just trying to give you a little bit of tools that you can use to try to minimize anything happening. The other thing that we talk about is they should only be communicating to their friends, not people they don't know. Meaning, if you don't see that person every day, you shouldn't be communicating to that person. If this person isn't physically here in our community, why are we talking to this person that's in a different country or in a different state that you've never traveled to or built a relationship with? So these are some of the things that we try to teach the young people, but also teaching you as parents to be aware of. And we always encourage, never give out your personal information, ever. Everything should be private. Even me as a grown woman, my accounts are private. I don't have anything that's public except not for sale. That's public. But other than that, everything of mine is private. And we teach the kids that you need control over who you're allowing into your home, into your space. So if your account is public, there's no control. That means every predator online and more are coming into your heart, are coming into your personal space. And that's what we're trying to avoid. Any questions on that, on all of this so far from anybody that we could answer? If anybody has any questions. Okay, next slide, Jim. I think it's the video. So right now, I'm just gonna set this up for you. So we have a video that we show in the schools. And the reason being is this video, first of all, kids really hear and see better with a video. It really wraps everything up for them where they can really grab attention and grab a hold of it. Again, with this video though, it shows in 3 minutes exactly what happens from start to finish with a trafficking victim. So we just want you to see this, and then we can take any comments or questions after that before I throw it over to Jim.
We had it working before, so
there you
Kathie
go.
set it up so great.
Yeah, you got it. Thank you.
Here, everybody here okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Can anyone tell me what the different chromosome is for a male versus a female? Yes.
XX is female and XY is male.
Correct.
This is bubbles up here.
No, it's down.
We're trying to study.
What is this?
Nothing.
What is this? What are you doing?
It's nothing.
Who is that?
Nobody.
Who is that? Who are you texting?
What's your problem? Let's go. fun. Come over here.
Thank you, Jim. So with that video, I hope it impacted you watching that video. It's so important that we understand as parents how easily this can happen. And there's so many things that happen in that video. I will unpack some of that as we go on in the presentation so that you understand all that was going on with that. But one of the things I wanted to point out before I pass it to Jim is that that teacher recognized that there was something going on with that student. So this is a real life situation, by the way. So that student was a great student coming from a great home, and she got caught up with a boyfriend that ended up trafficking her. So as you can see in the beginning, he was giving her drugs. So the reason being is because they're being raped all day long, multiple times, they have to be drugged so that they can keep performing. So that's why he gave her drugs. Then you notice that from there, he was asking for revealing pictures. So those pictures he would use for exploitation or sextortion, which I would love for Tamia, if she has a moment, that she can kind of speak into that with the pictures and the blackmail. But that's what was happening in that video. And then after that, of course, he was pimping her out and selling her, and the vicious cycle goes on. But I just hope you understand just how quickly this can transpire. It's very transactional. You know, human trafficking, unfortunately, is a business. It's a multi-layer business. It has a business plan. It has hierarchy within the business. They even use their precious victims. They use these victims, that people that make them a lot of money can have certain roles within their own little organization that they have. And now they've also been using women. Women have now become predators. And why do you think that is? Why do you think predators are now using females to become traffickers? And anybody can respond.
Because they seem safer.
They do. Women, most, when we ask this in the schools, when Jim and I are presenting, and we'll say, who would you trust more, Miss Kathie or Mr. Jim? And they're like, Miss Kathie. And, you know, which is, that's sweet. But quite honestly, that's why they do it, because children and women, it's like children would trust women more. So now women are being used to recruit multiple victims, just like a male would. So we have a lot going on in this industry to educate on. There's so much we can talk about, so many different avenues. But if Tamia wouldn't mind, if you could just speak into, is she still with us? If you could just speak into the sextortion piece of using those pictures, and you have your own experience that you could share.
Yes. So, hello, everyone. My name is Tamia Woods, and my son was a victim of sextortion, and he died by suicide on November 19, 2022. A lot of cases, and what Kathie was speaking about as far as sextortion goes, it can definitely start on the internet, and a lot of times they get leads from that. In my son's case, I do apologize if my dog starts barking. In my case, my son was approached by what appeared to be a friend of a friend. So they were friends on Instagram, and they got to talking. It was a female, and she was beautiful to James. They started relating, and she created a safe space, and then they started video chatting with each other. They got on the phone, they had she revealed herself first, unclothed. She asked if he would like to see so, and he's 17, so the answer was yes. And then she revealed herself, and then she said, now it's your turn. And he then disclosed from the waist down. And that is where they started retrieving, they screenshotted that video and proceed with the sextortion part of what you may see and what Kathie may have seen, especially you have what now is called traditional sextortion versus financial sextortion. So my son was a part of financial sextortion, but you may see and are familiar with a lot of traditional sextortions where they may get a younger female to unclothe or provide sexual pictures, and then they start to sextort them. So they want to either use them to sell on the dark web, or they get them to provide additional pictures for their own self-gratification. And by doing that and keeping them wrapped into that lifestyle, they say, well, if you don't do this, we'll harm your family. If you, we will ruin your life. You'll never go to college. You'll go to jail, especially if they're underage for child pornography. And you may have heard a lot of other law enforcement officers. That's why you see a lot of the change in how we relay our messaging and giving a more clear answer on what you will get in trouble for when you pass pictures around and what you won't. And they use that to really manipulate you, create a mindset against you to where you're afraid to even tell someone, especially if it happens online. A lot of times, especially as in my situation, people didn't immediately interpret James as being a sexually assaulted victim, but we have to realize that that can happen in that aspect as well. So there's tons of ways that people can actually trap your child or trap anyone of any age into sextortion. A lot of times you may even see where there is a safe space, and we're creating that with other women, and they're either collecting the funds now if it's financial sextortion, and that so one, they would send a picture and then that's how they trap them, and now they're collecting funds from everyone. They can get that sextortion and then say, meet up with me, and that is where human trafficking can come into play with that. I mean, there's so many different avenues that people are really taking our children and victimizing them to where it is very hard for them to get out of. And in my son's case, one of the last words he said to his murderers was that you have me in an unavoidable loop that I cannot get out of. And that's what they truly believe. He himself was Googling how to get out of it. He was trying to find other answers, and he couldn't. And he felt like the only way to get out of it was to take his own life. With their encouragement, they did tell him to kill himself over and over and over again. So this is just a terrible, terrible place. And people can hide behind these screens. They can pretend to be whoever they want to be. And sextortion is not even at an all-time high. Just to give you an example, in 2020, just Ohio alone, we received 679 cyber tips on sextortion. And now, starting in 2022, Ohio is averaging 21,000 reports. And that is people who have enough strength in them to actually report themselves. So that's not even, I don't even think it's a small portion of the people who try to hide it. So that's a quick story of my story, and how it's just so important. You have to educate yourself. You have to talk to your children because there are tips that we can follow. And I'm here to tell you, as a parent, my husband and I, we followed every single one of those tips, and my son still became victim. So we have to educate our children. We have to communicate. We have to tell them, you know what, if you made a mistake, it's okay. Come to me regardless. Nothing is worth your life, and really push forward and try our best to fight for our children in the best way we can. And that is including if there are broken homes, there are children who are a part of broken homes. We have to become those trustworthy adults that Kathie was speaking of. We have to be there for these children, or else it will be a revolving door over and over and over. And it leads to drug addiction, alcohol abuse, and everything else after that. So if we take care of it and we educate people ahead of time, I, for one, never knew about sextortion, but I'm telling you, I'm going to scream to the top of my lungs until everybody hears me, that learn through me, learn through our vulnerability, and please just talk to your children about it.
Thank you, Tamia.
You're welcome.
So much. And I know Tamia's going to share at a later time for Jen and keeping kids safe. So just thank you for that, Tamia. Well, now we're going to pass it over to Jim so he can go over some other things with sex trafficking.
Great. Thank you, Kathie. And thank you to everybody for just bearing with me as I had to adjust the the setting there. Kathie, I hope I wasn't too much of a distraction. I had sun was coming in. I don't want people to think I was going for a film noir look.
You're doing great.
So just to kind of give a global perspective here. Oh, there we go. And as you can just see here, victims can be, we just want everybody to be aware that victims can be trafficked really into the USA and from anywhere. This is a global concern. Kathie did mention earlier about the issues and things related to the borders. And again, just to piggyback and echo on what she said, this is not just a political thing. There are human lives involved in this. And there's a number of other ways that they will try to basically can come here as well. A lot of times the victims will have a lot of the proper documentation, passports, visa, what's needed. Mm-hmm. So when they get here, and when they meet up with the one who has invited them, enticed them to come, that's where the exploitation can begin. And they can confiscate or take away their documentation or threaten to deport them, making them believe all sorts of falsehoods. And very briefly, one example includes a gentleman from India by the name of Harold D'Souza, who's authorized and told me to go ahead and share his story. He had a bachelor's degree in business and a master's of commerce from a university in India, but he had stepped down from a senior management position to travel all the way to Cincinnati with his wife and children. But then when he got there, he and his family got there, I think he soon learned that he'd be working at a restaurant like over 15 hours a day for really no pay, and his documentation was taken from him. And it took some time, but finally he did courageously work with the police and caseworkers to regain control of his life. But when he came here, he had said, I didn't know what services or where to turn to, what police to turn to. And I was always told I was at risk of deportation for these things happening. And of course, now he leads a nonprofit organization, Eyes Open International, to help fight and raise awareness of human trafficking all over the world and in Ohio, and right here in Ohio. So his and the organization's mission is to raise awareness and be a voice for other victims who don't have voices in the world, and try to help those who are other heralds who may not know where to turn. He wants to help educate and do all he can. Because as he says, and as we're trying to raise awareness tonight, they could be working in restaurants, brothels, parlors, farms, or even private homes, months other places, again, right here in Ohio. Which brings us now to really why Ohio. So you can see here in the red, I'll let you all read some of the different reasons, but according to, I think, the National Human Trafficking Hotline, amongst others, we're ranked number 5th in the nation. Now, don't let that startle you too much. Ohio is doing a lot. to try to combat and raise awareness about human trafficking in general. But there are things that there are elements of about our state that can make exploitation, unfortunately, in some cases more attractive, as you can see. We have the most truck stops in the nation, and trafficking we know can go on there, even though we're trying to help raise awareness, working with trucking organizations, human trafficking groups in general. We're trying to help, work with trucking organizations to help raise awareness. Our interstate highway, it's part of, we can enter and be in major cities, not only in Ohio, but throughout different states and across the border in a day's time. Other factors, as we can see, that can contribute, and it's like what Kathie had talked about earlier, it's about that vulnerability that usually a trafficker will be looking for. But some of those other factors can be poverty, unemployment, and again, as it says, the rising immigrant population coming from another country, being in a new area, so to speak. So even though Ohio is considered a hot spot, where wherever that ranking lies, it's also been at the forefront of at the forefront of the fight to try to stop human trafficking with the help of the Ohio State Attorney General's office. And their office is coordinating efforts with coalitions and collaboratives all throughout the state. So just briefly, again, I'm not an attorney, remember that, but how is Ohio responding legally? First, of course, in 2000, it was a federal offense, trafficking of persons. And I mean, that could lead to federal charges. However, in 2010, human trafficking became a felony crime, a criminal offense at the state level. And it just mainly means it does not always have to be held at the federal or the court level. And the End of Demand Act was basically a way to hold those and who profit by human trafficking more accountable, however, also helping those who are victimized. That was the most important thing, especially for those who may be in prostitution and such nature, where they may be more afraid, understandably, to come forward about human trafficking.
We have a couple of questions. Can I interrupt real quickly?
Sure.
Okay, so first of all, Nalini asked, and I think this is a deep subject that maybe we can get into toward the end. How do you become secure on the internet, right? So you guys tell us if you want to just sort of recap those tips toward the end of the presentation.
Well,
I'll be covering a little bit about that, but no, Kathie, go ahead, please.
Oh, Jim is going to cover a little bit of that. So we can kind of walk through the legal aspect here really quickly. But yes, there's ways to become more secure on the internet, but there is no foolproof security on the internet. I literally just sat down with someone with artificial intelligence discussing artificial intelligence and human trafficking. And he's just like, there's no foolproof way to 1000% keep ourselves safe. It's just there's always going to be a loophole that'll be found, especially because AI is rapidly growing. So with anything with the internet, it's just impossible to have 100% security. But the things that we can do is what we were talking about a little bit earlier about not giving out your private information, passwords you should keep to yourself and not anywhere that's on a public device where people can break into it and find out your passwords, making sure that our social media accounts are private and not public. Certain apps, especially when it comes to gaming, which I don't want to take away from Jim because I know Jim's going to get into that. But Jim, yes, I'll just let Jim go through that.
No, go ahead, Kathie. That's great.
You know how I do, Jim. I just get excited.
That's okay. That's okay. You're not stepping on my toes.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So Jim, if you want to flip through the slides, because I know we're getting late here in the time.
Yeah. Before we continue, Christopher wants to know, what would have to be done to require all trucks to be weighed and searched between stops? And he says it seems a lot like a violation of rights for the driver, but it's something like, how do we stop it if the truck stops are indeed such a vulnerable spot? What could be done from your position to stop that or curtail it?
mean, Kathie, I'll
Well,
jump in here
truckers
just
do
real
get-
quick. Oh,
Okay.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Nope. I was just gonna say, truckers, their trucks do get weighed. They have to get weighed. But as far as them being searched, like every truck, that's just not gonna happen. It's not even feasible to do every single truck that goes by. But I do know that they do get weighed, and could we add more laws in that area or more regulations? Of course, that can happen. But it's just the manpower, the money, the budgets for all of that. But it's not something that we can't bring up. I know we have Kwame, who is a part of our organization, who is actively working on changing legislation and assisting, because he's a human trafficking survivor himself. And there's so many loopholes in our legal system alone, and that's what he's trying to tackle. So yes, we can definitely do more and ask for more things to keep us safe, but we don't have the answer for that at this moment with a trucking company. I know there's organizations called Truckers Against Trafficking.
Right.
That is huge. Was that what you were going to say, Jim?
Pretty much. And I mean,
go ahead.
awareness, just always awareness is so crucial in that. But I think, Kathie, what you touched on, really, I think really covers it. So you got it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So just really briefly, as Kathie said, just the only thing I really want to just say about the legal issue is that both at the state level and federally, human trafficking is a felony. We are also trying to provide protection and ways for victims who are in these situations, especially whether they're adult, but also if they're younger age, such as if they are juveniles. We do have family court, and there are programs and help. We try not to treat them just as ones that we can just add criminal charges to. We need to basically have a way for them to move beyond that. So there are some things that they are trying to work with, and even some programs that they're hopefully looking at bringing back. I can't say too much about that because I don't have all the details, but it's more about it's not about to just punish them or add to their charges and to create like a docket or a file on them. It's basically to help those who are victimized. However, what I was told really briefly by a couple of attorneys was a lot of times, especially at the local level, it can be harder to try cases just on a human trafficking based charge. Because the victims can be transient, meaning that they may not be staying in the same place. And if a case is going to be held, whether it could be like a month or so or a couple months out, they can't make the attorney told me that we can't just make them stay, just for this hearing, or wait this long as we're trying to gather and compile the evidence. And a lot of times, another attorney told me it's still trying to convince, juries, especially if what the victim could be a prostitute. They may be thinking there might be some biases that the jury just may not be fully, understanding or, fully educated on the things that are going into that, nobody's becoming a prostitute by choice. So they may have to charge the perpetrator on other charges, such as it could be domestic violence or assault or felonious assault. But sometimes in those charges, in those cases, there can be human trafficking of some sort taking place. Finally, a lot of where you're going to see more of the work done, the attorney I was talking to told me, is especially at the federal level. And if you want, like later on, I can email out a link to the Ohio's Northern District Attorney, for the state of Ohio, for their news releases and such. If you just type in specifically human trafficking, it'll bring up the recent cases they've had, and you will see that those who have been charged at the federal level, it can be sometimes years up to life, because they have more resources and they have people and law enforcement professionals whose specialty is trying to focus in on these types of cases, especially if the perpetrator of a trafficking case goes across state lines, so to speak, or maybe traveling with victims through different states. It's not perfect. Like Kathie says, there's a lot we're still trying to work on with it, but I just wanted to quickly give people an idea what it looks like, at least a very brief small snapshot at both the state and the federal level legally. But the other thing that just remains is, what can we do? What can we do to recognize signs of human trafficking? And how can we recognize a victim? And the one thing you just need to realize here, I think it's not going to be up to us to determine whether something is or somebody is definitely a victim of human trafficking and to try to personally intervene. It's not about putting ourselves at harm's way. But I'll let you look at some of the signs here, especially whether they appear malnourished or show signs of physical or mental abuse. If they have an older boyfriend or girlfriend that speaks for them, or if they have different kinds of branding or strange tattoos. It could be the barcode, a dollar sign, daddy, and that branding that marks that victim as sort of the trafficker's property or who they own, so to speak. And Kathie, really briefly, I know we're kind of running out of time, but could you share a story recently? Sometimes the signs can be very obvious, and it's just to know to report. Then we'll go over how to report.
So really quickly, so just a local example. So I was with my daughter going to different beauty colleges because she wanted at that time, this is years ago, to be an esthetician. So we went around to some local beauty colleges. There was quite a few that we went to, and this one in particular, we went in meeting with the executive director of that college. And I just happened to notice that they had an anti-human trafficking poster, knowing the signs of trafficking listed in their salon. And so I said, this is so good. I'm so glad you have this, because all salons are supposed to be getting educated on human trafficking. And I told her, what I do. And she's like, yeah, I think that we just had an issue with a child just a couple months ago. And I said, oh, really? Tell me about that. So she told me that she had a child come in, 13, 14 years old. This is locally. 13, 14 years old, came in with 2 men. She had 4 cell phones, 2 men, 4 cell phones. Already, you should be hearing some signs and knowing that something is incorrect. The men spoke for this young girl. This young girl didn't say one thing. The men wanted to change her total appearance, her hair, wanted to add nails and lashes and makeup to make her more profitable and marketable right here in our community. So as this lady is telling me this, I'm just getting fired up because I'm thinking, okay, I hope she's going to tell me that she called 911 and got this child some help. Unfortunately, they did nothing. And so when I asked her, what did you do? How did you help this child? She's like, well, honestly, that's where I think we failed, because we just didn't know what to do. And I said, what do you mean you don't know what to do? You told me you had training. You have a poster here of how to recognize the signs. How do you not know what to do? And she's like, we just didn't. Everybody kind of froze. And so I said, because I am a mama bear, I just said, well, you just lost somebody's child. That's what you did. Because you guys did nothing, you just lost somebody's child that we could have saved and gotten rid of that predator. So it was just mind-blowing to me that it's right here in our own backyard, but yet we chose the option of ignorance. We chose the option of, I don't know what to do, instead of picking up a phone and just calling 911, which leads us into the next to the last slide here, is that how do you report? It's so easy. Even if you don't know the local number for human trafficking, which we do have one. Jim, do you mind if I just take this real quick?
Go right ahead.
So we have a local hotline. It's the 252-2614 number. This is new for all of us, which is super exciting that this has been created by the Stark County Human Trafficking Task Force, which we're all a part of. But it covers Summit, Stark, Portage, and Medina counties. This is a local 24-hour, 7-day-a-week hotline that you will immediately get hooked with a dispatcher that will immediately get you into the right amount of team of people for whatever issues going on. So it includes law enforcement, advocates, a care team, just getting you the help that you would need if you were recognizing trafficking happening in a store or in a parking lot or wherever you may be, or with your own child. So this is the local hotline that we're super proud of, that our sheriff's department has created. Then obviously, if you don't know that number or don't have it handy in your cell phone, 911, always give them as much information as possible: height, hair color, race, age, gender, location obviously is number 1, but give as much information as you can. I'd rather everybody err on the side of caution than to do nothing. You know, doing nothing costs a life, but picking up a phone and saying, you know what, I'm not sure if it's trafficking, but here's the signs that I'm seeing. I'm just concerned. Could you send someone out? They're going to send someone out. Our police departments are amazing. They know what to do and how to do it. They are all trained in trafficking cases. So we definitely have the help that we need. So does anybody have any questions over these items that we could answer for you? Because I know we're getting close. I think we're almost at the
I can say I have a question.
Okay.
This is Christopher, and so hi. I was just curious because I feel like sometimes it gets overlooked because of like how like in I don't know, I would just say so I'm 34, so when I was growing up,
Sure.
to where like when people would say like, oh, I think that this kid might be being abused, and they would call, you know, CPS, and then that really wasn't the case. So like, do you feel like some people don't do that because of those reasons, or like, what do you think?
I think people are so into their own lane and their own lives that we're all so engrossed in this. And I feel like we forget to be looking and being present where we are. And when you have, like, I had that as she was speaking, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like this young child was right in your presence, and you have 2 men and 4 cell phones, and she's not speaking. Like, all the signs were there, but yet she chose silence. And so I just think that some people are scared to make the call. Some people don't want to get involved, and I understand. But again, if someone would err on the side of caution and just say, you know what, like for instance, Kwame, who's a part of our organization, it was a teacher that saved his life and 3 other kids that were trafficked with him, because she noticed that he was acting different than the other children. He was wearing clothing from the neck down, and it's 100 degrees outside. He wasn't interacting with the students. He wasn't looking at anyone. He was always looking at the ground. And there was just so many other signs that she was like, this isn't normal. And she just started asking, are you okay? Are you safe? And so that, just those 2 questions were able to unpack what was happening and save 4 lives. So I just think sometimes people let fear get in the way, but if we can encourage anyone, it's please, if you see something, say something. I wouldn't suggest calling CPS. I would just suggest calling 911 and sharing what you're seeing, and let them, the professionals who are in this industry, know what to do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Because I know we're at the end of our time. I know one question came up, Jim, if you could talk about gaming.
And specifically just anything about it, or just in general?
Yes, just like how to protect themselves when they're gaming, especially the young children.
Yeah, just as far as the gaming goes, if there's any kind of, first of all, I mean, just in general, you know, look at what kind of game that it is, and see what kind of, read the reviews, see if there's any kind of, you know, if there's a way for parental controls to be set up on that game, because while you can do that also on your phones and such, make sure that parental controls can be put in that game. Make sure that, because you are talking to other people, make sure as much information as you can within the game. Because I mean, full disclosure, I don't play the online games, but make sure that information is kept private. Because if, as long as I would say, at least as long as they are playing, you know, as characters or what have you within the game, that may be one thing. And parents, if you're able to, just maybe as well, try to make sure that they are doing or playing their game on their phone. Easier said than done, I know, but either if it's not on their phones, if it's on a tablet, laptop, make sure that part of the rules it is in the common area, where as much as possible parents can kind of see what's going on. Parents, I'm not a parent, so I want to approach this with some humility, but please, as my former supervisor used to say, be willing to be that parent. Don't hesitate. You know, they're using your devices. They're under, you know, they were under your account, signed in your name. That's got to be part of the rules. So that's why you want to take charge. Be willing to kind of be that nosy parent, look at what's going on, not only in a game, but in anything else. But I would just say, first of all, as it says here with research games, research apps beforehand, get the reviews. And after, what I can do, whether it's in the chat or I can email it out and then make sure that everybody has a copy, the Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost has put together a publication listing, I believe, a lot of both the apps and some of the games that are out there, and basically what to do and how to review. But make sure that if somebody asks them something personal within a game, with an app, or with a site, if they're starting to ask for personal information or wanting to go to a private chat, again, I know we're talking more about the tips, but make sure they understand not to do that, especially with somebody they don't know. Even if that person on the other side of the screen is pretending to be somebody that's there with their peer or within their age range. That's just, I think, one of the most important things, really we can do. So be willing to research, as it says, take charge, say, hey, and there's no, like Kathie said, there's no foolproof solution, whether to our kids or to ourselves. That safety, in a sense, if anything's a more foolproof, we ourselves are that foolproof solution. No matter what locks or devices or things that we can put on there, put those on there. Go onto your phones, put and check the parental settings on your child's phone, and just to make sure that they're not getting on that. They may still try because they're kids, but make sure they understand that there are expectations and guidelines about how they can use that, and be willing to monitor and check those things. Two other things really quick before I get to the bottom, though, because I know we're running out of time, so I don't know if I'm hitting on everything that's related to it. A couple of things. At night, don't treat the phone as an alarm clock. Because the kids, you don't know they're not sleeping when they have their phones. They're going to be on their phones, texting, and probably even worse, talking to people. They could be looking at pornography. Unfortunately, that's just a reality, because unless those filters are set in place or the kids are trying to go around it, if you can, don't let your kids have the phones, because we know our youth are spending up to 9 hours or more, and that's not just on homework. Finally, what my former supervisor, who's a parent, would always say is that we have to, as adults, model the behavior we want to see with our kids. It's not enough that we got to tell them, put your phone down, put your tablet down, go play outside. Fortunately, we have to do the same thing, because if we're telling that to a kid to go outside, and here we are ourselves on our phones and on our devices, the kid's going to model and reflect that behavior, saying, well, wait a minute, why can't I be on it? You're on the device. So she had said, as much as possible, if we don't want the kids to spend so much time on the device, we need to model that, for our kids to not be on there so much. Finally, because I know we're throwing out a lot of tips, and Miss Woods alluded to this as well, but as much as she also hit on, and I just hope I'm piggybacking on what she and Kathie have said, one, I think the most important things is communicate and teach them the things that are out there, and not only teach them, but if there's something they're afraid about, something they're embarrassed by, something they're concerned by, or that something that's happened online, tell them, hey, always come to me. And I know that's easier said than done, but tell them, always come to me. Be willing to come to me before that the situation gets worse somehow. Please come to me as a parent. We will work through this together. I think that's just one of the most important things. So I just wanted to make sure and touch on those things. I don't know if I answered the question fully about the games. We have time for discussion. We can touch on that some more. Oops.
Yeah, and we just wanted to open it up now for any questions, concerns, comments, anything that we could help answer for you.
Is there a list of apps that we as parents should be looking out for? Is that what you're going to send out from Attorney General
Yes.
Young?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a list, and it's ever changing.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I mean, the basic apps: Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter. What's the other one?
Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok.
TikTok, yeah. I was trying to think. All of the major apps right now are ones that we should be concerned about. And when it comes to gaming, any type of chatting on these games, predators are gaming all the time, because that's a key way to start communicating to young children and to be able to get them to do the things and groom them the way that they want to groom them. So I didn't allow my kids to chat online unless it was an actual friend that they know that is like a neighbor or a family member or a friend at school. So it's just something that we really have to be aware of, because it's those little doors that can open so quickly and lead to many, many devastating things. So Jim will definitely send that out to you guys so that you have that. But the main thing when it comes to anything with apps is to research. Every time a new app came available, my kids were like, hey, Mom, can I get this? I was like, hold on, let me look into it. Let me research. Same thing with gaming. There are so many games out now that encourage prostitution, that encourage abuse, that encourage pornography. It's horrifying. And these are games that young, sweet children are learning what to do. And the abuse that is on these games. I think Grand Theft Auto was one of them. I don't know all the other ones now because my kids are older, but these are things that we are looking into because they're ever changing. I mean, there's new games coming about all the time. It's just getting that research piece in. That is the number one tool that we could do.
And I'll include a couple links as well to a couple of sites that sort of review and look through these games and these apps, commonsense.org and commonsensemedia.org.
Awesome.
Those are a couple of resources, but I'll send that out.
Thank you.
On the flip side of games and apps that are an issue, is there games and apps, or I guess specifically apps, that parents can use to monitor their kids' cell phones and just what's going on them?
Yeah, so there is, when your children get to the driving stage, I mean, you can actually use it at any time, but I love Life 360. That we use that app still, so that way I can get to my child at any time. If their car breaks down, if they're at a place they shouldn't be, I can see where they're going as long as they have their cell phone on them, which we know they do. That app will totally trace them wherever they are, and you can zoom in and you can see exactly where they are. You can see the house, you can see the street. It's amazing. And there's many different levels on Life 360. It's a free app, but then you can pay if you want to upgrade that app to do more things, like the speed that they're driving. And if they're in a car accident, it'll send you an alarm. And there's just many things. So I really, really love that app. But for younger children, when my kids were younger, there were apps out there. I'm going to have to send you what that would be now. But back in the day, there was an app that I could download to my phone that would trace all of their text messages, photos, so I would be aware if they were doing anything inappropriate. I think it's called Covenant Eyes. I'll research that and get back to you on that. But that way you can check and see what they're doing, and you can determine if you want to see all the text messages, the photos. Like, you can make your own settings for those apps. But it is something that we have as a tool as parents, just to kind of keep track of that. For me, I just chose the phone check option, where I could sit down with them and just kind of walk through their phone and see their apps and see who they're communicating to. To me, for my family, it just built that trust with my children, so that they knew it wasn't mom being controlling. It's a safety issue. I mean, it really comes down to safety. So that's something that I highly recommend. But we will send out that list of apps and things so that you guys have all that information.
Can I add can I have a follow-up question real quick, actually, for the apps? And this could just be, I can do my own research on this, but I didn't know if you knew offhand. So for my daughter does not have her phone yet. It's going to happen on Friday for her birthday. But she's 12, and we've put in a lot of we're going to do a contract, and she's not going to have access to really anything. But just for myself, I am an Android user, she will have an iPhone, and I refuse to switch.
Mom, we're gonna convert you to iPhone.
Never. But are those like, is Life 360 and then the other one that you're talking about, are those compatible between different devices? Okay.
Yes. Life 360, I do know for a fact. But the other ones, when you go and research those apps, it'll tell you most apps are compatible with all the different phones that are out there. But we'll definitely include all that on that list, so you guys have that. And I love that she's gonna get her phone. Yay!
I'm on the fence, but I think it'll be good.
Can I add a couple of things to Aaron's question, please? So, Aaron, I just want to let you know, I love that you're creating a safe space and trust with your daughter. And I think that would truly, truly hold tight as she grows. I just want you to be aware that once she turns 13, Google will text her and tell her, congratulations, you're turning 13. You no longer need your parental consent for anything. Click here to opt out. Please be aware of that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's something that they automatically do. There's other phones. So there's an organization, and it's called Gab, and they do have phones that you can buy through them that are $100 or $200. The $200 one has apps on it. The $100 one is just if you want them to have a phone and make sure you're tracking them. And what they do is they actually monitor what what your child is saying online. And say, for instance, there's any communication dealing with harm, child pornography, any cyberbullying, or anything that they may think is harmful to your child, they will actually shut down the app and then immediately send you an alert for that. So that is also an option for you. There's also a company called Cyber Safely. If you already purchased her phone, you can go through Cyber Safely, tell them that I sent you. I know the owners, and they'll have a free, I believe you can get like a free year's prescription. But what they do is if you do add some apps on there, they monitor the dialogue on the apps, and they will keep you and keep you up to date with everything that is tracking on your daughter's app as well. So there's lots of other things that you can do, and phone companies that are coming out there to help protect your children. I just want you to be aware of it. One of the things that I'm really, really hard on, that I'm on myself, that I'm trying not to be, because I just truly did not know. I used to tell James to never cash app anybody you didn't know, or never give anybody your banking information. And I'm on the fence, so I'm going against that now. And the only reason why is because my son sent them money via a gift card. If he would have used his card, I would have gotten a fraud alert.
Right.
So take that information as you will. That's me being hard on myself on days that I shouldn't, and that's not on me, and I understand that. But just keeping in mind just different tips. We try as parents, and we just don't know. But those are some good tips for you to use as well, as your child is getting her first phone and all those good things.
Thank you, Tamia. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for sharing your story.
You're very welcome.
And one more thing to add. Thank you, Tamia. One more thing to add on iPhones, when you go into the settings area, you can set what kind of apps they're allowed to have age appropriate. So if you want it to be, no apps under, they have to be, 12 years in age and under, that's the only apps they can open up. Or you can put parental control on that, so they can't purchase or open an app without the parent getting the notification. You can do that as well. I did that with all my kids. just so that I was always aware of any apps they're trying to purchase, any apps they're trying to go into. So that is on the iPhone under settings.
Kathy, Dawn
Yes, thank
asked,
you.
You're welcome.
how do we figure out which apps there are to hide apps that the kids don't want us to see? So like she used an example, there's an app that looks like a calculator, but when you open it, it actually has hidden apps inside of it. Do you guys have a resource for lists of those kind of danger apps, or, you know, how do we know?
I think, Kathy, if you have something to add, but I think it should be covered for the Attorney General's list.
Okay.
That I'll be sending out as well. That's one resource. And like those other two I had mentioned, Common Sense and Common Sense Media, those will probably send it on, should have some information on there as well. If for some reason you need something more, you're not finding sufficient information related to that, just, I'll have my contact information. Please reach out to me and I'll get that for you. But that should be covered with the information I'm going to send out for the AG's office.
Excellent.
Well, and one thing to add to that though, too, I mean, just being very transparent, these apps are always changing and popping up.
Yep.
So, from the way the kids interact with each other, the symbols they use, the emojis they use to communicate. Like we went to a class where they were showing us all the different emojis, and then we had to figure out what were they saying in each text message. Like it would have like 6 emojis. That's all that it was. And then we had to determine what were those emojis saying. That's how they're communicating. So they're coming up with their own lingo and their own way of communicating so that they can do some inappropriate things. So it is hard. It's very hard for us parents, you guys, but when you're seeing things, that's why I really stress the phone checks. When you see things on the phone that isn't making
Oh, Kathy, I think you froze.
Yeah.
But I just piggyback on what she was saying there briefly as well. I think if I'm understanding right, not to speak for her, but yeah, if there's something that doesn't look right, on during the phone checks and such, please, be willing to, to talk to them and just, being upfront and saying what's going on here. Be that nosy parent.
Yeah. Does anybody have any other questions?
Kathy's frozen.
Yeah, she's frozen.
I was just going to ask Kathy, and I mean, I don't know, maybe it's a question for Tamia, because my wife and I are psycho helicopter parents, and I was just curious because we made the rule that essentially until our kids are in high school, would we even consider allowing for sleepovers unless it is at grandma and grandpa's house, and that is it. So, like, do you have a take on that just because you don't know what happens at other people's homes?
I have heard of that a lot. Me personally, I didn't mind people coming over to my house, and I was that actual parent that other people could trust, and that made me feel safe inside, that my son was in a safe space. Therefore, you're not taking away that experience, because once they're in high school, it still happens, but it's not as often. I think sometimes too, I think what you're doing is a good job as far as like keeping up with the communication and setting tones for your children. And I think every household has different rules and that you should follow. That was one thing that I just didn't have issues with when it came to sleepovers or different things of that sort. I think we did a good job as far as parents, like if someone touches you, if something happens, you tell us that. And we had that open communication when it came to sleepovers. What happened with us is just the invisible evil. That is what I called it, because we didn't know what sextortion was. We didn't educate our kid on that. And that is what took our child. When it comes to sleepovers and different things of that sort, he always, it never was any issues, but he would always speak up. He always said something if anything was to happen to him in that aspect. If he was bullied in school, he told us. which that never really happened either. But we just kept a great deal of communication open.
I hate to interrupt and disrupt. We're going to lose our screen in about 60 seconds. So I just wanted to thank everybody. Jen, do you want to wrap
truly.
up?
Thank you everyone for participating. Tamia, we will be in touch with you. Tamia will be up in sometime in August to speak. So will be a wonderful one to listen to. Next month, again, we have alcohol, tobacco, and firearms federal agents that will be on. So bring all your questions for them as well.
Jim and Kathy.
Yes. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you so much.
Kathy. We appreciate you guys. Thank you
so much.
everyone for
Thanks,
stepping
everybody.
in. Let's
Thank
keep
you,
our kids
everybody.
safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye. Jim, should we stay on with, will you lose us, Jen?
I think we're going to lose everything at 8.
I don't know what happened. It kicked me off.
Yeah, you